podcast with Investing Education Academy. You have myself, Brent Simpson, along with the co-founder of Investing Education Academy, Leon Noble. Now, today we're talking about something that affects everybody in this cycle. Um, really, what is it? Taxes. We're in tax season. So those of us who know what that means, it means that we're scrambling to get all our forms together, and we're trying to figure out how to pay taxes on our stock portfolios, cryptocurrency, other investments. So today we thought it would be important to talk about cost basis. Normally, I would hand it over to Leon and tell you why it's important, but I'll do that today because this was something that's kind of dear to me. Now, I know that some of you all don't invest because you're scared of what it means, like on the tax side. It's just too many moving parts. It's simpler to stay in a bank account. You don't really know how it works. So, you know what? I'm just not going to do it. It's not worth it. Now, for those of you all who say it's not worth it, last 2 weeks ago, we talked about a stock called NVIDIA. Now, I am going to hand it over to Leon now because I want Leon to tell you just some highlights on what NVIDIA has been doing over the last, like, let's say, like month or however you want to say it, Leon. But can you tell them some things about NVIDIA?
Yeah.
Oh, real quick, before he does that, if you all want, you can actually go back to our podcast from 2 weeks ago where NVIDIA was the complete topic, and you can hear more like further detail about it. But this is just a snippet of like some of the things you should know about NVIDIA.
Yep. So just this year alone, just through today, 320, NVIDIA is up 80%, where the S&P 500 or the general market, that's our benchmark, is up about a little less than 10%. So NVIDIA up 80%, the general market up 10%. Over the last 12 months, NVIDIA is up 240%. The general market is up about 30%. And then finally, the last 3 years, NVIDIA is up 600%, where the general market is up about 30-40%. So we saying all that to say, NVIDIA has been. I mean, if you've had money in NVIDIA over the last 3 years, right? If you had $100,000 in that, Brent, do you know what that turns into offhand? If it's $100,000 and 600% in 3 years, is that?
It's not 600,000.
Okay,
so,
yeah,
it's more.
Yeah,
it's more than 600,000. So,
okay. So we're probably talking about pushing $1 million, probably close to $1 million.
Over 600,000.
Yes, well over 600. If you had $100,000 in NVIDIA 3 years ago, you're well over 600,000, probably pushing close to $1 million just in 3 years investing in NVIDIA alone. That's a huge amount of income. Also, a huge amount of if you're going to sell, it could be a huge amount of taxes depending on what you're doing. But Brent will talk, a little deeper. That cost basis comes into this too.
Yeah. So let's just take the first thing he said. Over the last, I think it was year to date, is up 80%.
80, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That means that if you started this year with $100,000 in it, in that stock, which we do not promote single stock risks, but it's this is all conversational. We are not promoting NVIDIA. We're not saying go out and buy NVIDIA. We're simply talking about cost basis in this conversation.
And these are just facts. I mean, we're just stating facts.
So, do your research, make sure whatever it is that you want to invest in is suitable for you. But let's dive in. Let's have some fun with this today. Cost basis is really important because you need to know how much you initially invested, because if it goes up 80%, you're talking about in 1 year, if you put 100,000 in, you're sitting somewhere around, what is 180?
Yeah, but 180,000, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So 180,000, you're talking about $80,000 in profit. Your cost basis was 100,000. Cost basis is the original amount of money you put into a stock when you made the purchase. Why is that important? If it's in what's called a non-qualified account, which means it's an individual brokerage account, that is taxed every year. So that $80,000 at the end of this year needs to be reported.
Well, it's
reported either way.
Yeah,
but it's taxed if you have a sale.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So either way it's reported though. So you have to report what you had the portfolio itself, and it's only taxed if there's what Leon was about to say is a triggering event. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So if you have that means if you sold it by December 31st. So I want to kind of go through the cycle of what happens, and before we dive too deep into it, when you make the purchase again, that amount that you purchased with your cost basis. Why that's important again is because it is not taxed ever again in an individual account, in a non-qualified account, which means it's not a retirement account. So they're not going to come back and go, "Oh, we're taxing you on 180,000." They're only going to tax you on 80,000 if there was a triggering event and you sold it at that amount. So for those of you all who are like, "Oh, I always thought that they whatever you had or whatever, if you sold it all, the total amount you receive is taxed." It is not. They say, "Okay, let's pull out that cost basis, which was that 100,000, and what's left? Cost basis minus the total amount sold." So now that's if you're in a profit. It's key to know this information because it takes some of the fear out of investing. Now, if you are in a retirement account, then this is where it gets super sexy. You're in a retirement account and you had the same situation. You put 100,000 into NVIDIA and now it's 180,000 and you do sell. In a qualified account, you are not paying taxes, depending on the type of qualified account it is, until you withdraw the money, which could be 50 years from now for some people. It could be 10 years from now for other people. It could be 3 years for somebody else. It could be 40 years for somebody. It doesn't matter. They're taxed at the time you pull out the money, depending on the type of retirement account that you have. If it's not a Roth, if it's a traditional, what's called a traditional IRA, individual retirement account, you're going to pay taxes at the time you pull the money out. Normally, that's going to be sometime after age 59 and a half. Now, man, this is where it's sexy on top of sexy. If you happen to have been blessed enough to set up a Roth IRA and you have had NVIDIA in your account and that same scenario occurs and you sell it and you sold it, you have $180,000 in that account, the entire $80,000 profit is not taxable. That is when you are like, what? And so it doesn't matter if it's short or long-term capital gains, you don't pay it. So these are things that very wealthy people understand. Even if your cost basis was that original 100,000, it doesn't matter inside the qualified account. They're really looking at the profit in one situation only when you pull the money out. And you can pull it out slowly. You don't have to pull it out all at once. But this is why cost basis becomes important. Because when you do pull it out, your accountant needs to know what your cost basis is so they can do their estimates and their calculations to figure out what your taxable responsibility is at that point. So what does that mean for you? It means that you need to know how much you're putting into this, because at some point in time, you will be responsible for payment unless it's in a qualified account that disallows you from having to pay that tax. And that's something you should discuss with your CPA or your tax advisor. If you don't have one, you can reach out to Attorney Beverly Winstead from the law office of Beverly Winstead. She is a tax attorney. Her team can assist you with that. You can find her at www.irshelpattorneys.com, or you can reach out to Joyce Sistrunk, CPA from Premier Group Services. It's a full service CPA firm. They also can help you out with that. If you're looking for her, you can reach her at www.pgs-cpa.com. Now, full disclosure, they are both members of Investing Education Academy, but we think they're awesome. So that's, if you need those services, that's that. Now, for those of you all who are like, okay, I don't know where cost basis is. I didn't write it down. I don't remember. It was 10 years ago. I bought it for my kids. Most brokerage accounts now will actually list the cost basis under the details of a particular stock. Now, Leon, I think you say Interactive Broker does it.
Yeah, so Interactive Brokers, cool thing about Interactive Brokers, they actually list out your cost basis. So if you invested $1,000 5 years ago, and now, if all things went well, now that's worth $2,000, it'll list that original $1,000. So you can see your actual cost basis. And this is kind of important. I'm just thinking it through. Like Brent said, if you bought something 10 years ago and you go to your account, you're like, yo, I'm up $10,000, $20,000 on this position. Or it may even say you're up 20-30%. None of that really tells you what your original amount was, right? So like you can see these numbers that look really, really good over a number of years, but like Brent said, come tax season, you still need to know, okay, what was my original amount invested? So this is why it's really important to find out on the platform that you use how to find out your cost basis. Like I said, Interactive Brokers, they actually list it. It's one of the columns you can actually list in your portfolio where it shows your cost basis. So Interactive Brokers does it. I don't know which other ones do it or make it easy, but it's definitely important.
Yeah. And you're thinking, well, why is that? How do I track that? Some of you all are very organized and you have a Google spreadsheet. And when you make the purchase,
I have multiple Google spreadsheets.
And so when you make the purchase, just take a minute and actually drop in the price that you paid for the stock and the date and how many shares. Because the other part of this, in which we're not going to go down this rabbit hole, but it's called a dividend reinvestment program. It's a DRIP. It actually will reinvest the dividends paid out to buy new shares, which will change your cost basis. But again, that's something that you want to really work with your tax professional on this. So really today, we wanted to say it's important. It is extremely important, especially in the tax season, to know what your cost basis is. But it's not something to be scared of. It's not something that should restrict you from investing in the market. If you're inside of your retirement account, then you're trading or you're investing. That's a great place to kind of experiment because the tax implications are different depending on if it's a qualified retirement account, being a IRA, an individual retirement account, traditional individual retirement account, or a Roth IRA, which is a Roth individual retirement account. You can play differently in those because, again, inside of that Roth, you're not going to get short or long-term capital gains. But inside of a traditional IRA, it's just being deferred until you get to the place where you're ready to pull funds out, normally in retirement. Because if you pull funds out before retirement, you get hit with a 10% IRS penalty for early disbursement from an IRA account, and you don't want that. In addition to that, you will also get hit with ordinary income tax because you're dispersing it early as well. You don't want that. So you're getting in a place where you can actually have a benefit, especially inside of a Roth. Like it's almost like getting a 20 to 30% bump on top of what you made because you're avoiding that taxation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it is hugely powerful, and also that amount compounds. So it's something to consider. Now we talked about the good side. Let's talk about the other side. If you are a highly wealthy person and you have a portfolio and the portfolio is doing poorly, or a stock in your portfolio is doing poorly, you might want to do what's called loss capturing. With loss capturing, you actually want to sell that stock while it's still down to offset how well you're doing in another position. Or you might want to sell it to capture that loss to make it real so you can offset your overall income for that year. So loss capturing is a strategy, a successful strategy for highly wealthy people. And we know we have some of you all watching us today, or somebody watching us today knows somebody. So please send them this podcast because they might want to listen to it because they want to ask. And this is the thing. Sometimes service providers are going to do what we tell them. So if you go to your tax professional and you tell them what you want to do and they do it, that's their job. That's what they're going to do. Sometimes you have to ask them like, hey, is there any type of loss capturing strategy we can implement to offset this revenue? And that triggers them to go, okay, let's look at this. And we assume that just everybody knows everything and is going to say everything every time we meet with them. Service providers, I am one of them, are human. And sometimes we need to have a client tell us like, oh, what about this? Same thing you would do with a doctor. Sometimes you want to say, oh, well, I was thinking, can we check on this? And I was like, oh, yeah, that is something we can check. I didn't think about it. And maybe she's happy you gave her that advice, or he, depending on who your doctor is. So just understand it's the same thing when you talk about your cost basis. There are ways to have a relationship with your cost basis if you understand it well enough. You can have it offset your income. You can use it just to help you emotionally deal with what's happening in the stock market, or you can use it as a strategy to avoid taxation by investing in these qualified accounts, be it a Roth IRA or traditional IRA. But you need to just know this information so you can go out to the world more confidently. That's Leon and I's goal with Investing Education Academy, to arm you all with information to make investing not scary, to demystify the world around investing. So that's really what we wanted to give you today. Leon, is there anything I missed or you want to throw in?
No, I'd say if anything, just like I said, learn your platform and your investing platform, and learn how to find out. Call the customer support. Hopefully they have one, or a lot of these things will have like FAQs. You can go on there and search there too. But yeah, try to find out how to find out where to locate your cost basis for the stocks in your portfolio. So it's important, definitely come tax time.
Yeah. So if you don't know, call. And Leon would tell you there were platforms I was against if they just didn't have a 1-800 number.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about platforms, we mean like brokerage services, E-Trades, the Fidelities, Robinhoods. And I am a huge proponent of using that 1-800 number. Sometimes I'll call them just because I got a long drive ahead of me, and I'll talk to them as if they were a friend. And so, they're there. And I think we get this, like, we have to call them with a specific reason. We have to have our questions laid out and perfect because we don't want to waste their time. They are being paid to answer our questions.
Mm-hmm.
And they're being paid in some cases to help educate us. Even if the person you call can't give you the answers, Leon said another thing that was perfect. They may lead you to, or they may go in and find the perfect FAQ for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to even search it. They're like, you know what? I know exactly. Oh, we have a webinar on that. It's pre-recorded webinar. I'm going to send you the link. Now you don't have to go through and spend hours, surfing through all these articles or videos. Maybe you like doing that. There's something to do. Either way, we're simply saying use the 1-800 number to help you learn about your account, to learn about the market, to find out what your cost basis is. If you don't see it readily in your account, or you're curious as how it's calculated, call and ask them.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing they can say is I don't know, but normally they don't. They find the answer for you, and that helps educate you on the markets and how to be a better investor. So with that being said, we really appreciate you being with us. We'll be back in 2 weeks. And if you have any questions about what our 2-stop picks are, then you need to go over to our membership platform. It's www.ieamembers.com. And be it tax season or after tax season, if you are looking for a professional to help you just understand your taxes in general, or your accounting in general, you can go to www.pgs-cpa.com. And that is Joy Sistrunk CPA's company, Premier Group Services. It's a full service CPA firm. Or you can visit www.irshelpattorneys.com. And that is Attorney Beverly Winstead's full tax service and really IRS litigation firm. So if you're looking for somebody to help you with your taxes or issues you may have with the IRS, you can find them. The law office of Beverly Winstead, fantastic firm. They are clients, and we're clients of theirs. They're a client of ours. They're members of Investing Education Academy. Full disclosure, we're not saying it because of that. We just think they're awesome.
And I was going to say, we actually use both those companies. So we're not just throwing it out there as, paid ad or anything. We literally use that. So just FYI.
Yeah, we should start looking into getting some paid ads. All right, everybody. It was a pleasure. Again, you can go over to find us if you're interested in learning about stocks, how to invest, hear what's happening inside of our community. It's growing. www.ieamembers.com. We're happy to have you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.